Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we talk the hopeful return of the Lion, as we discuss all the evidence and teases he should be next. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we are discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But, with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, Lion L. Johnson. Enigmatic Primarch of the Dark Angels. The man I like to say has benefited the most from the Horus Heresy series, seeing his reputation get a meteoric rise, from unknown and questioned loyalty to absolute warlord powerhouse. And really the only competition he has in that regard is probably Jagatai. However, the Lion is the Primarch, I think, who just has to be the next loyalist brother to return. And today we're going to collate all the evidence and teases I believe as to why. And as always, as we begin, this is just my opinion and fanboy speculation. So let's just get started. Number 1. We know where he is. Ever since my earliest days of 40k 2nd edition and diving into my mate's Angels of Death codex, the mystique of the Dark Angels was always encapsulating, and nothing more so than the so-called final secret, that unknown to anyone other than the Watchers in the Dark and the Emperor of Mankind himself. Buried within the rock in the deepest, unknown, unreachable chamber, Lion L. Johnson lied sleeping, awaiting the time he was needed once again to defend the Imperium of Man. Now, while perhaps a small thing on first glance, it's actually very important when, other than Guilliman himself before his return, we don't know where any of the other loyal Primarchs actually are. We have vague ideas of the possible whereabouts for some of them, such as Jagatai's within the Webway, and Russ has departed for the Eye of Terror. But that was a very, very long time ago, and those are very big places indeed. The simple fact is, the Lion is the only missing loyalist. We know exactly where he is. And number 2, his wounds are now healed. Now this is a subtle change in wording from the original final secret description, and it was always kind of implied, but I think it's worth mentioning regardless. L. Johnson's wounds are now described to have long been healed. Like I said, you always kind of assumed that was the case, but now it is clearly understood. Number 3. Luthor has escaped. Again, one of the long-standing secrets of the Dark Angels was the fact that, known only to the Supreme Grand Master of the chapter himself, Luthor, the arch-traitor to the Primarch and Legion, was still alive and imprisoned within the rock, said for millennia to be ranting and raving of how the Lion will return and ultimately forgive him, absolving him of his sins. However, as we know now, he has since escaped his confines during a mysterious demon assault upon the rock. And the reason that this is important is having the betrayer of the Lion escape feels like a very natural first step to having the Lion himself return. Because let's just be real here for a minute. Having read the Horus Heresy series, how many people really see Lion L. Johnson as the forgiving type? How many of you really see the Lion coming back and forgiving Luthor for his ultimate betrayal? I don't know about you, but that's something I really don't see. If Luthor is talking forgiveness on the end of the Lion Sword, then maybe I hear him. But otherwise for me, personally, there's absolutely no chance of that. The lion was never going to forgive Luther. Loyalty is everything to him. So having Luther himself escape makes absolute sense if the lion himself was going to return. Number 4. The Fallen amassing in Legion strength. Again, another evolution of the Luther escaping storyline is reports reaching Azrael's ears of the Fallen gathering within the warp rift known as the Somnium Stars, in numbers said to be reaching Legion strength. And not only that, but he believes Luther to be there leading them. So, not only do we have a Legion scale threat of traitors to the Lion, which is actually a major scale threat to the Imperium to boot, but they are also led by Luther himself. If that isn't gearing up anticipation for a major Dark Angel event, then I don't know what is. And a major precursor to having the Lion return would absolutely have to be an event needing his return. And Luther leading the Legion-sized force of Fallen once more, well, that absolutely ticks the box for me. Number 5. The Somnium Stars are north of the Great Rift, within the Imperium Nihilus. If there was ever going to be a major unveiling of the Fallen, you would want it to be within the Imperium Nihilus, where chaos reigns and the Great Rift blocks out virtually all communication with the rest of the Imperium. And not only that, the Lion being within the Imperium Nihilus makes sense for his much more vengeful and warlord nature, allowing him to return and do what he does best, while Guilliman can be left to run things in Imperium Sanctus. And having said that, number 6, the possible incoming Unremembered Empire storyline. The Unremembered Empire is one of the best mini-series of novels within the Horus Heresy series, and it was an extremely tense time between Guilliman and the Lion, to say the least. L. Johnson literally came to Macragge to ensure Rabute was still loyal, and he came a whisker away from unleashing his legion upon the Ultramarine homeworld. The Lion has always been wary of Guilliman's ambitions and him wanting to play Emperor. And I don't know about you, but I'd say it'd be hard not to say that's exactly what he's doing now. And I absolutely think the Lion would think that too. So, bringing back the Lion into this again just makes too much sense. And number 7, the Unforgiven chapters are actually said to be the only possible counter to Guilliman and his successors, which is something you absolutely need if that's the storyline edge you want to go with. Now, you could class this as a throwaway line, but for me, I really don't think that's the case. Especially like I said in this building narrative. If you dive into your Dark Angels Codex, you'll find a very telling line, essentially stating that the strong ties of the Dark Angels and Unforgiven are the only hope of stopping Guilliman should the need arise. And considering I expect the return of the Lion, considering everything we know, to be a pretty tense affair when it comes to Guilliman, this is a very important point. Because if the Lion wanted to go up against the Ultramarines and co, it means he could. It makes it a very real possibility. It all sets the stage. Now, I'm not saying that Guilliman and the Lion will go to war. In fact, I find it very unlikely. But I do think his initial return would be a very tense affair. And it could even reach the point of a battle or skirmish or two. So the stage really needs to be set that the Lion could go against Guilliman and his successors if he wanted to. And this does exactly that. If the Lion were to lead all of the Unforgiven chapters, essentially in a Dark Angel's Legion of old, then that really is a credible threat to Guilliman. Now, there could be more evidence or teases out there that I've forgotten about or missed, but I really think that all about rounds it up. And like I've said, it really feels to me like this is the building narrative direction. I really think even the most skeptical of Lion Return fans out there would be hard pressed to say there's more evidence pointing towards another loyalist first instead. Now, could there be a surprise return or curveball instead? Yes, of course, absolutely. And if that's the direction that they ultimately go, then yeah, it really would be a surprise to me. Because given all the reasons I've just spoken about, it really feels like the Lion is going to be next. And it really feels like the stage has slowly been set for his ultimate return. And like I said, while I may not expect a civil war if he does return, I really don't see him being too happy at all, given the current state of the Imperium and the very possible perception of Guilliman playing Emperor. But as always guys, what do you think? Do you think the Lion will return next? And if so, how do you think it's going to play out? Do you think he's going to be unhappy with what Guilliman is up to? Or do you think he will welcome Guilliman with open arms? Or perhaps do you see a curveball being thrown and maybe another loyalist return first instead? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.